Good day, ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs. Zombie Force here with another boring tale of a couple of boring subjects. We're going to call it conspiracies, and what the implications and the legalities behind certain conspiracies. And then the next big one is called treason, and crimes and punishments behind treason. And I'm going to try to give you a layman's term so maybe you can kind of understand where certain things may be headed. Conspiracy, when it was alleged that Inspector Comey of the FBI and the Allen shit, these people were conspiring in the same room and it was actually recorded with Barack Obama way back in 2016 as to the Russian involvement in the election, and how they was trying to put that off on Trump, and they was conspiring. And then the conspiracy kind of starts in that is that indeed there was and there is evidence and documentations that Barack Obama and part of his administrative staff and Inspector Comey and shit, Mr. Shit, and all these other actors that were involved in a conspiracy. And then you've got legal angles of propaganda going around out here in the media. It says it's a statute of limitations on these charges because it's been past 5 years. There's a statute of limitations that involves federal law that says that if nothing is ever discovered after 5 years, then they can't go back and try somebody for a federal crime like robbing a bank or something. If they don't know who robbed the bank and it's unsolved and it goes beyond 5 years, then there is a spot inside U.S. law that says, federal law, that says it's reached its statute of limitations in a chargeable crime. But in the act of a conspiracy, you see, it's a conspiracy to commit fraud against an elected official or in a political aspect of interference by an official. You see the conspiracy that goes in there. And then the conspiracy has been ongoing, which you have to understand how that works in laws and rules. Is if somebody conspires, it takes another person it takes more than one person to commit a conspiracy on certain legal aspects, which means it had to involve more than one person. And then in legalities, the conspiracy chased all the way from 2016 in that election all the way up until 2022, when the files that were going to confirm the connection between Russian interference in an election and Donald Trump conspiring with Russians in that, and that would have been a crime. But there was no evidence ever found in that. Legalities behind it is everybody that was involved in the conspiracy from the beginning. You have to understand if it had to go to trial, and the questions and stuff that would be involved would be that we have Barack Obama and members of government official positions in a room having a discussion with each other on how to, essentially what happens is the false narrative by leading officials in the FBI and CIA introduced false evidence that was just rumor into the public news media, which caused an outcry of public interest, and then somebody says, well, now the leading FBI agents and stuff that was in on this case run with the narrative, and it creates a false narrative. They leaked some of us something to certain press organizations, the big ones. Then they went off the evidence that the news media was falsely producing, which is a major conspiracy to intervene or interrupt the legal election laws and the democracy behind all of that. They undermined the effects of what was going to happen. They knew what was going to happen, and there was no evidence. Like I said, I'll bring you up the story, which means that whenever they came to Mar-a-Lago in 2022, they were looking for documents, false documents. You got to understand, false documents that didn't ever exist, that they created that didn't exist. It was a conspiracy. It's kind of like crying wolf. You know, when you cry wolf, and you over time, that conspiracy stayed there. And in the conspiracy, and everybody that was connected to the original conspiracy all the way up until 2022 are not outside legally. Now, this is true. They are not outside of a statute of limitations, which it's inside 5 years, inside this whole conspiracy. Whenever a crime it's getting committed, but then the crime still continues to get committed all the way up until a certain point, even if it extends 10 years. It's still the same crime in a conspiracy. Certain actors inside the conspiracy, between documents, attempting to locate documents at Mar-a-Lago being held by, at that time, the ex-President Trump, to try to charge him with some kind of holdings of some kind of top secret files. At the time, Donald Trump's top secret clearance existed, so there was no crime in any documents that he may have been holding copies of in his possession, which it's common in presidents to do that, and it's not a crime. So that conspiracy never worked, but they were trying to find criminal evidence against Donald Trump that connected him to being in bed with the Russian spy organizations and being able to try him on criminal charges and put him behind bars for the rest of his life and just ruin everybody around him's life too. All of the pictures of the people that's been attempted to be accused of a crime around that famous photo of Donald Trump, mugshots. Most of the people inside those photos were never charged with any crime. It was just based on a conspiracy. And some of the people that were involved in the victim, they were the victim of this conspiracy. Well, shit, they posted pictures online of them and their wife and their children and how they've lost everything over this, you see. So then, I just say that it's sort of like a cold, calculated approach as to like a military aspect, and I know this sounds kind of morbid, but if there was somebody's body that was pretty much unaccounted for and it couldn't be located, it wasn't easily located, then you just, in a matter of days, believe me, you would be able to tell where that body was at. That's just the way some people see that. So, illegalities, none of the administrative representatives of trying to put Donald Trump in prison and make it unable for him to win back an election, to just do away with him. It was a conspiracy, and legally it's been found as a conspiracy. Now, the conspiracy doesn't have a limit on it. It was an ongoing thing, and in its legality, you got these lawyers that's going to try to run in here and try to introduce the statute of limitations, which has been primarily known as 5 years in any such crime. It falls outside of the 2022 ongoing, you have to understand that, conspiracy. It can't be done. It's inside any known statute of limitations, which would have been 5 years, according to some of the propaganda. It means that anybody that's ever been involved in this conspiracy that's linked to one thing after another, and one politician and person after another person, all the way back to 2016, previous to Donald Trump's first administration, when they tried to knock the rails out from under him by introducing Russian conspiracy before he was elected, while he was in his campaign. They tried to eliminate Donald Trump as a candidate and put Hillary Clinton in that seat. So the conspiracy started all the way back in 2016, previous to Donald Trump's first election. During the administration of Barack Obama, he was still sitting president inside this country. The conspiracy was brought on by him and the Democrats and the close leading CIA's, FBI agencies, leaderships put in place and ruled over. You know, Adam Schiff was just a congressman back then. But the conspiracy has been proven. Now, the second charge, compounded with the original conspiracy that has existed from 2016 through 2022. But the evidence came to the table. The final evidence came to the table in the proof of the conspiracy in 2022, when it went into the review of oversight. Who's going to look at this case and who's going to look at the legalities of it, and where is Bondi? Where is Gavin Newsom? Where is all these people? Where's Gabby? So, the legalities have been put on the table of firm evidence that points to a conspiracy in the first accusation. You're innocent until proven guilty inside this country under law. The conspiracy side of that carries, which means the conspiracy never really goes away if the accusations never go away. The accusations have to go away for at least 5 years, not mentioned. Nobody's talking about it, and then 6 years later you come back and say, hey, whatever happened to this conspiracy? Why was there nobody ever charged in this matter? The clock officially under this conspiracy would have taken place between 2022 and the ongoing accusations of the Trump administration being in collaboration with the Russian hoax, which there was never any evidence put there, only because there wasn't any evidence, because it was put there under false premises and rumors leaked to news medias through security administrations. That means they just made it up. The criminal charges remain in high courts. In every document I can read, every document I can discover, anything that has to do with the legalities of this conspiracy are firmly on the table, and there's no way out. The issue's been passed in agreement that, and then there's this another legal angle coming at it, saying that Barack Obama has presidential immunity. I'm going to get back to that and what it entails. The acts of treason do not, let me explain this to you. It has a minimal charge that carries as little as 5 years in federal prison and a $250,000 fine to execution. It's a capital crime, treason. It's high treason. It's the highest crime that a person can commit inside this country. It's punishable by public execution. Thus, in legal matters of the constitutional laws and the federal laws around these treasons and acts of treasons, it is punishable by death. It's a capital crime offense. It has a minimum, but it does have a capital offense charge attached to it, which means that a person can be publicly executed. And then the legal angles is you got some of these left attorneys out here looking at this and they're saying, well, he can give himself immunity to these crimes because he was president. The key to the matter is was president at the time. And if he was president at the present time, and then later, you have to understand this, he was still involved in the treasonous act of conspiracy of treason. Those two crimes are different, but they follow each other. In a conviction of a president of the United States to involve that president in acts of treason, it's a pretty serious matter. Now, just to kind of reflect on history of the United States during the war between the South and the North, one of the people before the federal government, the federal troops had reached an agreement in the city of New Orleans, Louisiana. It's knowing your history. Before an agreement was decided between the South representatives and the federal troops and the government, they came to shore and they planted an American flag in New Orleans. Then another gentleman that's on the side of the Southern representatives decided he was going to go over and take the American flag down off of that pole and parade it in the streets until one of the federal ships shot a cannon mortar round at him, which he gained injuries from brick debris. Whenever the paperwork was finally signed, you have to understand this, between the federal government and New Orleans, after this agreement was signed and this became United States territory and flew an American flag, after that, they went and found this guy. They brought him up on charges of treason. It's one of the first known cases of treason against the United States of America. Whenever a sitting president at the time in 2016 decides to be involved with a conspiracy to overthrow, you got to understand this, essentially commit a coup d'etat against Donald Trump and his administration. It's a serious accusation, and some of the legal minds out here, sometimes they just never want to leave these legal facts alone. They want to keep digging and digging and digging and digging, and so they dug. The acts of, if Barack Obama would have pardoned himself during the exit of his administrative position, legal, of any such acts that would have been in the best interest of he was representing the United States in those matters, and he proclaims himself to be immune from any decisions that he would have made during his representative of the United States to the good of the people. It was in the belief that his actions were done in his administration for the best interest and the safety of the United States people, if you get that. Of legal standards, the legalities. Nobody was trying to say, hey, let's just put this person in prison for being president and blowing up this building over here in another country. It just can't be done. The people are responsible, and the people are the responsible people. We, the people, we carry the burden of that responsibility upon our shoulders only. It's very important. The Trump administration has put on display inside the White House a document of we the people. The charge of treason and conspiracy of treason would have taken place during his administration, in which he would have been the acting president legally. But as to commit such crimes as overthrow an election, interference in an election anywhere in this world, it would have been against the rules and laws of the planet. So some of the laws we're deeply bound to. It implicates the ex-president of the United States. You got to understand that. Barack Obama legally faces and will face, if somebody don't drop the ball on this one, it's going to be up to the president and his administrative staff as to the consequences of these charges of treason. It has to be brought before the people. And what our best decisions and discussions would have been legally around these accusations. So, in a legal standings, you would just have to look at it and say, you know, it's against the law to commit these crimes, especially from a public office, which means that if you're the highest official inside this country and you had anything to do with these illegalities of tampering or trying to falsely charge and criminalize a candidate for the presidency of this country in a political interference matter, should be charged as treason legally. Treason includes a person that removed an American flag from a pole in New Orleans and got away with it for several days and weeks. And they came to this person, they found this person, they put him on the gallows, and he was executed for treason over our flag. Told you don't fuck with it. So now in the legalities of spectrums of treason. Treason is a firm charge, and from what I can understand, most of the legalities of this case in particular, and it's complicated, as Barack Obama and the administrative staff that was in that room and around him during all this conspiracy will be heard. Gabby has passed this information off into the hands of Miss Bondi. Miss Bondi is the administrator over justice. Who inside the Justice Department, if the case should take place, has full control over the situation, which means it will be up to the decisions of the President of the United States and his staff to decide on the direction and the outcomes and the harms or whatever's going to involve in the conviction on the cases of conspiracy to commit treason. It doesn't have any outstanding grounds as far as I can see. Maybe there's some people out there that think they know something I don't, that can find a legal ground to stand on inside 5 years of silence, because it didn't exist. It carried all the way through to 2022, which puts it inside parameters of prosecution in all counts. Now, that side of the story being said means that each individual that was implicated or had accusations thrown at them or any part of any conspiracy on either side are known. Names, documents, records, investigations, everything into these individuals exist legally. It's a mountain of paperwork. But the fact of the matter is anybody that was inside a circle of certain conspiracies or connected to a conspiracy through certain manners shall be charged. At any moment previous to any, if you know something about legalities and laws, it says you had opportunity to step forward in this investigation. You had opportunity to say, I plead the fifth on this. I don't want to self-incriminate myself into these accusations and charges, so I refuse to speak to you in any manner on this case. Your refusal to give testimony inside a court of law in certain matters means that you reserve the right for counsel on a future date, if one should ever come. Most of the people that worked inside the government and associations and stuff, it's kind of complicated, but they have already recused themselves of certain matters pertaining to this case of perjury, of conspiracy, treason. The witnesses that have already made themselves known previous 5 years previous to 2022. That'll give you that date, which means that anybody that came to the table and said, hey, I want to get my attorney to represent me on this, I got nothing to say to you, reserve the right to remain silent. It's not saying it goes away, I ain't heard nothing out of it in a while. It just means you just identified yourself as a certain person inside a conspiracy that had a lawyer say time out for this person because we're going to make ourselves known. We're not going to say guilty or not guilty. We're just going to maybe sometime in the future come to the table with a negotiation. To negotiate comes with admittance and on legal standings, which means anybody and everybody that was ever connected directly to this conspiracy of treason. It's a treasonous offense inside this country under constitutional law to not give a person an opportunity legally and honestly to run for an elected official's office, not to be overthrown or cooed by another candidate, especially a sitting president. So, the matters will be heard. All the information in the files have been gathered on to who has seeking out some kind of they want nothing to do with it legally. They don't want to be involved in these charges. Their attorneys will be involved if needed. And if the subpoenas go out to the ones that say they don't want nothing to do with it, if they get brought into this, they're going to be brought into this. It's a strong accusation. This was brought on by we the people. The answers. You're not outside of the people of this United States. We wrote the laws. So, Miss Bondi, she has a burden upon her shoulders that's immense in all this case. So the leniency that's going to be brought onto this case will be up to the chief and his administrative staff as to where this is going to go. So that's where we're at. The charges are sound. Conspiracy and treason are firm in the U.S. courts for what I can see of. But that's that boring little video about conspiracy and treason and time limits on crimes, criminal matters. I'm not a representative of anybody. That's just my opinion. And that's all I'm going to say for now. Zombie Force out.